Introduction to Nutrition. Observe these videos in which the different organisms are taking their food, like caterpillar, a bird, a deer, and a human being. Do we really need food? Yes, we need food to grow and to repair. In general, vast varieties of food is taken by various organisms ranging from unicellular organisms to multicellular organisms. Obtaining or synthesizing food by an organism is known as nutrition. Basically, the nutrition is of two types: autotrophic nutrition and heterotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition. Some organisms like plants, by using light as energy source, by acquiring gases like carbon dioxide, water and minerals from soil, synthesize complex substances such as carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, etc. They serve as energy source in the form of food for all the living organisms on this earth, directly or indirectly. This mode of nutrition is known as autotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic nutrition. Some organisms obtain food from other organisms. That is, they depend on other organisms for food. Such mode of nutrition is known as heterotrophic nutrition. It is of three types: holozoic nutrition, saprophytic nutrition, and parasitic nutrition. In general, only the plants are considered as autotrophs, but there are some chemosynthetic bacteria like nitrobacter, sulfur bacteria, etc. They also have to be considered as autotrophs because they use some inorganic compounds to synthesize organic substances which serve as energy source for bacteria. Photosynthesis. Earlier, von Helmont and other scientists believed that the plants get their food material not only from the soil but also from other sources like water. Later, several works have been done to reveal the requirements and products of photosynthesis. Let us go in detail. Let us learn the basic definition of photosynthesis. The green plants, in the presence of sunlight, by acquiring carbon dioxide from atmosphere, water and minerals from the soil, produce organic substances such as glucose. Meanwhile, oxygen is also being produced. Glucose is utilized for its growth and development and also stored in the form of starch for further usage, whereas oxygen is released into the atmosphere. This process is known as photosynthesis. Chemical equation representing photosynthesis. Earlier, a simple chemical equation has been proposed by C. B. van Niel by his observation on purple sulfur bacteria. That is, carbon dioxide plus 2H2O gives rise to CH2O plus H2O plus oxygen. This explains that one molecule of carbohydrate to be formed, one molecule of water and one molecule of oxygen are produced. He proposed this equation by his study on purple sulfur bacteria. He also found that light plays an important role. Instead of water molecule, he has used hydrogen sulfide as a starting material. Hence, instead of oxygen, sulfur has been released. He related a similar process to be happened for the photosynthesis and proposed the above said equation. But later, a scientist named Robert Hill showed that oxygen is released from the water and modified the equation as 6CO2 plus 12H2O gives rise to C6H12O6 plus 6H2O plus 6O2. With this equation, it is assumed that glucose is going to be the organic substance which is formed as a result of photosynthesis, and it is going to be the food resource for all the living organisms on this earth. Presence of starch in the leaves. We have already learned that we take wide varieties of food items. From where do we get all these food? From plants? Yes, we get all the ingredients to prepare food from plants. We have already learned that the green leaves, by trapping the solar energy as well as carbon dioxide and water, synthesize glucose, which in turn convert into starch. Now, our task is to test the presence of starch in the leaves. For this, we need to do the experiment. Experiment to test the presence of starch. The requirements for this experiment are beaker with water, stand and burner, test tube with a leaf and methylated spirit. Now, let us see the procedure to conduct this experiment. Take a beaker with water, place it on a stand and boil the water with the help of a burner. Now, take a test tube, fill it with methylated spirit and immerse a leaf inside the methylated spirit. Place this test tube in the water bath. After some time, the spirit starts boiling. And gradually the leaf loses its chlorophyll and the spirit will turn into green color. By the end of boiling, the leaf turns into pale yellow color. Now, take the beaker away from the burner, take out the leaf and place it on a petri dish. Spread the leaf properly, add 2 to 3 drops of iodine solution. We can observe the blue-black colored patches on the leaf. Blue-black colored patches represent the presence of starch. Precautions. We need to take a lot of precautions while doing this experiment. The first one is take care while boiling the spirit as it is highly flammable liquid. Second thing is handle the iodine solution with gloves. Mohs-Half-Leaf experiment. Is carbon dioxide necessary for photosynthesis? As we all know, the plants are said to be the natural doctors for the environment as they take much of carbon dioxide and leave oxygen for life on the earth. Of course, it is proved in Joseph Priestley's experiment. He reported the first evidence that gases participate in photosynthesis. He had done an experiment with candle, mouse, plant and bell jar. He has taken a bell jar which is airtight, placed a candle inside it. After some time, the candle puts off. Next time, he had tried with a candle along with mouse. This time, the candle puts off as well as the mouse fainted due to the suffocation. But the next time, he had introduced a plant along with mouse and candle. This time, the candle did not put off and the mouse is also very active. So with this simple experiment, we can easily conclude the role of gases in the process of photosynthesis. With this observation, he had proposed that the plant's growth releases the gas which is required for the life and absorbs the gas which is not preferred for the animal life. What for the plants take carbon dioxide? Is it for photosynthesis? Let us conduct an experiment to prove that carbon dioxide is necessary for photosynthesis. The requirements are potted plant, wide-mouthed bottle, splitted cork, potassium hydroxide and the starch test equipment. Take a potted plant. Before conducting the experiment, it has to be destarched because we are going to predict the result on the basis of presence of starch. So if the starch exists already in the plant, we cannot get the proper result. So before conducting the experiment, we need to remove the starch which is already present in the leaf. To do so, we need to keep the potted plant in a dark room for a week. When it is kept in the dark room, we can ensure that there is no any further synthesis of carbohydrates, as well as the existing carbohydrates will be utilized for several metabolic activities. And remember to water the plant regularly. So when we keep this plant for a week in a dark room, most of the starch will be utilized for several activities. And we can ensure very minute or less or negligible traces of starch in the leaf. So after destarching the plant, take the plant out of the darkroom. Take a wide-mouthed bottle along with potassium hydroxide. Why do we take potassium hydroxide? Potassium hydroxide reacts with carbon dioxide and evacuate it from bottle so that carbon dioxide can be made unavailable for the leaf. Now, insert one of the leaves of the plant into the bottle through the mouth. Fix a splitted cork to the mouth of the bottle so as that the leaf has to move through the split without damaging the leaf. Apply Vaseline at the mouth of the bottle to prevent the entry of air. Keep this arrangement under the sunlight for several hours. After completion of the experiment, take the leaf which is made unavailable of the carbon dioxide as well as another leaf which is provided with all the requirements of photosynthesis. Conduct starch test for both of these leaves. After conducting the starch test, the leaf A, which is made unavailable with the carbon dioxide, shows the traces of starch or the bluish black patches on the part of the leaf which is outside the bottle. Whereas in the leaf B, the bluish black patches appear throughout the leaf. With this, we can prove that carbon dioxide is one of the necessary requirements for process of photosynthesis. Precautions. While doing this experiment, we need to take several precautions. The cork has to be fixed very tightly and applied Vaseline to prevent the entry of carbon dioxide. And also, better to take potassium hydroxide pellets rather than solution to get proper results. Light and photosynthesis. We take food to gain energy because the food is oxidized in our body to release energy. What is the source of energy in the food then? The scientists try to reveal the source of energy by putting oxygen back into the atmosphere. It means if the plants form oxygen, they have to get energy to make it possible. This led to the question that where did energy come from? A Dutch scientist, John Ingenhousz, studied the release of oxygen in the presence of light. He did an experiment with hydrilla plant and observed that under bright light small bubbles are released from the plant, while in dark they did not form. He also found that the gas present in the bubbles was oxygen. Let us see that experiment with aquatic plant. For this, we need a beaker, a funnel, a test tube, hydrilla or any other aquatic plants, water, matchstick, etc. Place the plants in a short stemmed funnel and keep it in a beaker. Pour the water in the beaker. Invert the test tube which is full of water over the stem of the funnel. Place this apparatus under the sunlight for at least 2 to 3 hours. The air bubbles rise from the plant and move towards the base of the test tube by replacing the water from it. After several hours, take out the test tube carefully and introduce an incense stick inside the test tube. It will be observed that it would burst into flames or it glows brightly. This confirms the presence of oxygen in the test tube which is released from the plants. Precautions to be taken that the water level in the beaker must be above the stem of the funnel, and after completion of the experiment we have to take out the test tube carefully without allowing the water to escape from it. The same setup is kept in dark room and observed that no air bubbles are being released from it. This emphasizes the importance of light in photosynthesis. It was further confirmed when Engelmann used a strand of algae and exposed it to different colors of light. He detected maximum rate of photosynthesis under sunlight. He used algae exposed to different colors of light. In his experiments, he observed two things. The first one is algae released more air bubbles in red and blue color light. He also observed that oxygen sensitive bacteria crowded around the algae under red and blue light. With his observations, he concluded that the light plays a major role in releasing oxygen, that is, in the process of photosynthesis. It is also proved with an experiment that light is necessary for photosynthesis, in which a part of the leaf is covered with a black paper to prevent the light to focus on it. So before going to do this experiment, the plant has to be discharged and select a leaf from the plant, fix a black paper on both sides of the leaf. Arrange this setup under sunlight. After testing the leaf, it is observed that only the part which is focused to the light turns bluish black, but the part which is prevented with the light does not turn bluish black. This proves that light is necessary for photosynthesis. John Ingenhousz observed the release of air bubbles from aquatic plants is more under sunlight. Along with that, he had also proposed that only green plant pots could carry out the process of photosynthesis. Then what about the plants having colored leaves? How the new leaves which are red in color turn green later? Why is it so? Do the animals which are green in color perform photosynthesis? This was uncovered by two scientists named Pelletier and Cavendish around 4 decades after Ingenhousz's proposal of the sites of photosynthesis. So the extract of green, they have taken the extract of green colored substance from the leaves and studied its nature. They named it as chlorophyll. The pigment which is giving the green color to the leaves has been named by them as chlorophyll. It was also found that pigments other than green also could aid the process of photosynthesis. Then where does this photosynthesis take place? So it was believed that the chlorophyll is scattered throughout the leaf. But in 1883, Julius Van Sachs observed the chlorophyll inside a cell organelle called chloroplast.
All the living organisms are made up of cells, which is the basic unit of life. Each cell contains different kinds of cell organelles. In this video, we are going to learn about chloroplast, which is the distinguishing feature of plant cell. Structure of chloroplast. Chloroplasts are the membranous structures consisting of outer membrane and inner membrane, inside which there is a fluid substance which is known as stroma. The stroma contains several fat globules, starch particles, as well as much more enzymes which are required for the process of photosynthesis. There are round and flattened structures which are known as thylakoids. These thylakoids are arranged one above the other to form the stacks of thylakoids which are known as grana. These grana are joined with the lamellae. The chlorophyll and other pigments are embedded in the thylakoid membrane to form the reaction centers. These reaction centers trap the solar light to provide the energy for the process of photosynthesis. Structure of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is a pigment that traps the sunlight. This is embedded in the thylakoid membrane. The main element in the chlorophyll is magnesium. So chlorophyll is nothing but the cycle of porphyrin bonded with the magnesium. As it reflects the green light, it looks green in color. The plants look green due to this pigment. Basically, the chlorophyll is of two types, chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. They trap the solar energy to the maximum extent at different frequency levels.
Mechanism of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process in which the green plants, utilizing the sunlight as energy source, synthesize the complex organic substances like glucose from simple inorganic substances like carbon dioxide and water. It is represented with the following chemical equation. 6CO2 plus 12H2O gives rise to C6H12O6 plus 6O2 plus 6H2O. Photosynthesis takes place in chloroplast. It majorly involves three events. The first one is absorption of light, photolysis, and conversion of light energy into chemical energy. Photosynthesis process can be explained as two main reactions, light reaction and dark reaction. Light reaction takes place in grana, whereas dark reaction takes place in stroma. Light dependent reaction, that is light reaction. Light plays a major key role in light dependent reaction or light reaction. A series of chemical reactions take place immediately after light trapping. It is also known as photochemical phase because it occurs under the sunlight and followed by several series of chemical reactions. It occurs in 3 steps. The step 1 is absorption of light. Step 2 is photolysis of water. Third step is formation of energy rich compounds. Let us see one by one. Step 1. It starts in the granum thylakoids. It starts with the absorption of light. The chlorophyll, which is present on the thylakoid membrane, absorbs the sunlight. When this chlorophyll on exposure of sunlight or light energy, it becomes activated. Immediately after it receives the sunlight, it gets activated by absorbing the photons. Step 2. It is the photolysis of water. When the chlorophyll is excited, immediately it initiates the splitting of water molecule into 2 components, H plus ions and OH minus ions. This is known as photolysis of water. Photo refers to the light, lysis means decomposition. Under the light or by the initiation of light absorption, the water molecule splits into 2 components. That is called as photolysis of water. It was discovered by Robert Hill. Next step is step 3, that is OH minus ions after a series of steps leads to the formation of water and especially the oxygen molecule, which is released out into the atmosphere. H plus ions refers to the protons lead to the formation of energy rich compounds like ATP and NADPH. ATP refers to adenosine triphosphate, whereas NADPH refers to nicotinamide adenine diphosphate. The resultant molecules of light reaction such as oxygen, NADPH and ATP, among which oxygen is released out into the atmosphere, whereas NADPH and ATP molecules are utilized in dark reaction. Hence, they are considered as the connecting substances between light reaction and dark reaction. Light independent reaction, that is dark reaction. Now let us learn about dark reaction. It does not require the presence of light. Hence, it is known as light independent reaction. It involves the reduction of carbon dioxide by utilizing the energy rich compounds which are formed earlier in light reaction, that are ATP and NADPH. It involves several intermediary compounds and several biochemical reactions. The first initiated compound is RUBP, that is ribulose 1,5-diphosphate. As a result of several reactions, glucose is formed and finally converted into starch.